Welcome to the channel and this introduction for my second irregular series for Transport Fever 2, and this is going to be purely introduction in this video. If you really want to get into the gameplay, I recommend that you move on to the part 1 of the series, which will be released on the same day as this video. Now, this introduction is going to consist of 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the series and its objectives and the 3 mods that I'm going to be using. The second part will be generating the map, and I'm going to talk about the reasons for what I'm going to be generating. And in the third part, what we will do then is move on to the game space, and I will go through some of the new supply chains that have been introduced by 2 of the mods that I will be using. And of course, we'll do some overview of trying to identify where we're going to start out and where the natural supply systems that will get the economy up and running. So that's what's going to be in the video. So let's just get into part 1 and start talking about why I'm making this series. Well, probably the best way to explain it is to talk a little bit about my series 1, which was going pretty well. I got up to the 1930s and the supply networks were coming together quite well. I was making a pile of cash, but I started to realize that I had 2 problems. One was the map, because I chose a map of a ratio of 1 to 3, which created a very narrow pathway up between the cities. And I started to feel that I was building up spaghetti lines rather than clear through delivery lines. And I think this comes to the heart of Transport Fever 2. And it's a mindset that I did not have right for the Series 1. That is that, unlike a game like City Skylines, where you build a city and it doesn't change very much, in Transport Fever 2, you start in the 1850s and the supply system is different from where it would be in the 1930s, 1940s and 2000s. So when you're building a transport network, you've got to not just cater for the immediate needs, you need to start planning the routes for the future. And I think that was the mistake that I made in building up the series, and it was getting a little bit tangled. And then the final nail in the coffin for that series was the fact that I went on the workshop and I was looking around just out of curiosity more than anything. In fact, I was really looking for assets like new trucks or stations, just to add a little bit of variety into the series. And I actually came across 3 mods which are very interesting. They're kind of industry overhaul mods, and they really got my attention. And it didn't take long after looking at those mods to think, no, I don't like Series 1. I want to go on to Series 2, because these mods seem to embrace the ethos of Transport Fever 2. So that's the reason why I wanted to start again. And this leads into the objectives of this series. That is because I do want to evolve a transport network over time and use these mods because I like the way the mods actually represent the growth of cities. And then also what I want to do is then bring in other assets as we go forward, rather than just dump them all in the beginning. I think I've now reached the point where I need to talk about the mods, and this leads into a feature in the game which took me a little while to find out, because in some ways, if you're not really familiar with the game, it's a bit of a hidden feature, and it's to do with the load games. Because one of the things I did consider with Series 1 was adding mods to the game, and I came into here to enable mods, and I thought, well, how the heck do I get these mods? There's nothing here. I've subscribed to mods and they're not here. What you actually got to find is this little plus sign down here where it says show advanced options. You come in here and all the mods appear. And quite interesting, because you've got advanced options enabled, you can actually change the climate, the vehicles, the town names, and the environment as well. So if you get, and I think this leads into something quite an interesting feature. Say, like, for example, you get a map that you like the layout, but you do not like the terrain or the town names, you can actually save the game and then come back in and change it again here. Anyway, that's a little bit of a digression. What I want to do is show you the mods. Now, the bottom 3 mods here are the default mods that come with the game. So no costs, sandbox mode, vehicle thing. Again, it means that if you can flip the mod mode with an existing save game, although be aware that if you put a mod on and then try and turn it off, what actually happens is you can get warnings. So let's just talk about the 3 mods that I'm going to be playing with. We'll probably the best to start with the expanded cargo demands mod by FxUK. Now, this mod comes in different varieties, and what this does is it adds extra demands to cities in different ways. There's a static mode where you can say, right, I want every city to have 4 demands, and there's another one where you can have give every city all 6 demands, and there's another one where I think it just adds demands at certain times. But what I've gone is for the dynamic growth option. What this does is the map starts in 1850 with just 2 demands. When it gets to 1920, what happens is the demand can increase to four, and I will say can because the introduction of the demand is random, but it depends on the size of the city. So when we get to the 1920s, it's not going to suddenly plop in. Say if you've got a city that demands, say, materials and food, it's suddenly not going to drop in fuel, and it's going to demand 100 fuel. The amount of demand that fuel will require will depend on how big the city is and what type of city you've got. So it comes back to what I was saying in the earlier, and it comes back to what I was saying when I was talking about the objectives of the series. Those demands will grow over time, but you need to actually develop the city to get those demands to grow, and eventually the larger cities will increase. So they've got four demands, and what you may actually have to do is put a network in to trigger that demand and get it to grow a little bit, which is one of the things that really intrigued me. And then what actually happens is in the 1990s, that process repeats itself, but for all 6 demands in the game. By 2000, we should have cities that have a demand for all 6 goods. And to me, that really intrigues me. So moving down, we've now got industry expanded. What this does is it introduces new supply chains to the game. So rather than just having the vanilla supply games, so for example, say food, where you've got a grain farm, a food processor, and you supply food. What there are now is extra chains which still result in food. It doesn't add new demands to specific cities. So the 6 demands still remain the same, but you've got different ways of generating that. And I know some people may say, well, that seems to be overcomplicated. But what you've got to remember is transport fever is all about moving goods, not growing cities as such, although you can build growth cities. So I really like the idea of the fact that we may be able to generate food and other items in different supply chains. And I think that just gives a bit more complexity to the network. And there's a complement but standalone mod that goes with this. And what this actually does is actually introduce 2 new demands. One is mail and one is waste. And the way this mod works is that I think it's the residents create mail, the commercial create unsorted mail, which then has to be sent to a mail sorting office, which then turns to be mail and delivers back. So I don't know whether it's demand or thing. I'm not too sure. The description on this mod isn't particularly good. And the other thing is industry in a city now creates waste, which then can be taken away to a specialist refinery, which can be turned back into steel again. So that's the 3 mods, and I must admit, having the 3 together is what actually really swung it to start over again. So here we are, we're on the create new game screen, and it's basically we're just generating a map at the moment using the random seed here. And what I want to do in this playthrough is we're going to go dry. I've set the sliders to the center at the moment, and we're going to stay on very large, but we're going to go to 1 to 1, and we're going to have medium towns and medium industries, simply because I found that when I can't remember which setting I used on high, but it made everything look a little bit crowded. Let's actually just pump off a couple of these just to see what we get. No, we're getting a lot of water. That one looks a bit interesting. No, I think we're gonna go for Silverbeard. I'll put it in lowercase. Well, that's given us a single river across the top here, which looks interesting. It looks like we got a potential couple of canyons here, and we got a great big dead spot there. Yeah, I think I would like a little bit more of an even distribution. And we change this. If I change the water setting, go that way. We've got a couple of extra lakes here, so the river's a little bit wider. Still got this dead spot here. Let's go less then. I mean, I don't want to turn the water off completely. I wonder if it's to do with the ridges actually. Okay, that's moved it the town down here. Let me just try something. If I decrease the ridges, see what that does. Well, you can spend hours doing this, by the way. This is something that can be. See, we got a lot more flat areas. Yeah, that's giving me no, I don't like that. I think we'll go back to that. I think that might be a good compromise. A little bit less water. Bring the town down into the middle of here. Yeah, I think that'll work because we got 1, 2, 3, 4 towns above the river. That means we got 12 towns below the river. This one towns out on its own, so it could be quite interesting connecting this up. Yeah, I think we can live with that. And what we're going to do is go next now, and what we're going to do is go into the advanced settings. This is the area where if you were starting a new playthrough, you'd switch on the mods. So you can see I've got the 3 mods switched on, which is expanded cargo demands, dynamic industry expanded. This is the one that adds the new general supply chains. Then we got the industry expanded add-on. This adds mail and waste. And these are self-contained, so if you just want to play with mail and waste and not use all the extended things, you can do that. And what we got now, we got options. What I want to do is change this to temperate, because where the brown does give you a lot clearer, tidier map, but I find the overall brown and desert look a little bit depressing, I suppose because I live in the UK and I'm used to be surrounded by green. I want to keep the vehicles American. Now, town names: American, English, European, Norwegian. That could be fun pronouncing them. I'm kind of curious about going European. I'm wondering what the game means by European. I wonder if it's going to be a mixture of European country names and all that. It'd be great if we had all the different European capitals in there. I think that's about it. Of course, we're going to have to save that. What you do is if you save the settings here, these stay. Where if you come back in another map, these settings reappear rather than default settings. That's quite a useful option. Of course, we're going to start in 1850 with medium difficulty, and we're just going to pop the start. So here we are, we're on the map. Just going to close that, pause the game because we've only got a $5 million loan and I don't want the interest to degrade that whilst we're looking around the map. And the next thing I want to do is we're just going to drop a save. I think we'll call this series, series 2. I think we'll call this part 0. And we'll just save that. And we can have a look around the map now. Just have a quick look here along the river. I'm quite interested to see how the river shapes up. We got crossing this river could be interesting. We got a crossing point here to nowhere. Got a little bit of a gap in the center of crossing the river here, and we've got a little bit of a gorge up here as well. That's an interesting road crossing point, and that goes through here. We got an iron mine right up on the top of a hill. It's going to be an interesting slope, and this runs right through to, wow. We're not going to be throwing bridges across this river very quickly. Must admit, I do like the green with the cliff faces, and as I said earlier, it's I don't know, it just gives the map a little bit more character than that brown desert look. I think it also emphasizes like little clusters of spikes like this. They stand out a little bit more in the contrast against the green. We've got a kind of a mesa running through here, which could be a bit of a challenge. I mean, these are literally cutting the map up, and again, I think this is going to make a bit of a difference. So like if we were playing on a temperate map earlier on, we could just push a road straight through this area here, but because we've got this little division here, this is going to be something that's going to be worth considering. And this is one of the new food processing plants. We'll take a look at those in a minute. I think what we're going to do is have a quick look at the towns and see what we've got in the way of towns. Let's sort by size. We've got Wooler, Bury St Edmunds, South Paddleton, Bogley Tracy, Hornsey, Kirk Stevens. I think this game has a slightly strange definition of European, as these are all UK town names. and our largest town is Wooler, which is, where's Wooler? Yeah, that's actually in the center of the map. That could be quite a useful area to develop. But I think before we look into where we're going to start, let's just have a look at industries, because this is probably the best way to just explain the new manufacturing facilities. And of course, if I can do a search by requirements, so we've got 2 waste processing plants and 2 letter sorting plants. Well, thank you, game. And we've got Bury St Edmunds over here, and it looks like both of them are in the center of the town. And actually, it looks like the waste processing plant and the letter sorting are very close together. We got that there. Yeah, so they're side by side, and we've got Bulletin there. So it's definitely looking very much like we'll be working in the center of the map in the beginning. Quite interesting the way that curves round that little promontory there. Right, so let's just go back to industries. As what you'll see now is that what we got in here is we've got the normal chemical plant, which is oil to plastic, oil to fuel. So this is the vanilla version. Below here we've got the actual goods, and what you'll see is we've got the ability for plastic and steel, which is the vanilla option. We've also got this new now, the Wooler Goods Factory. So if we look at the Wooler Goods Factory here, what you'll see is we come in here, and I've got a feeling, let me just check, I've got a feeling that produces 2 goods. Is it 1 goods? No, it only produces 1 goods. And what you've actually got, and I think this is quite important with this new goods factory, is that they all need plastic, but what you've got is planks, paper and silver. So in order to make goods now, it's not just plastic and planks. I think originally it was plastic and steel, wasn't it? Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, so we got plastics and steel makes goods, but we've also got wood, paper and silver bars. So we come into here, let's have a look at our suppliers. There's a sort there. So let's have a look at, if we come down here, you can see papers produced from logs, and the silver comes from here, and this actually needs a silver ore mine. Wow, we've done a lot of flipping backwards and forwards across the map here. This could be an interesting map, getting these in all connected up. But that's goods. If I can find a food map, here's one of the new food processing capabilities. And what you've got here is you've got food here, which is meat, coffee, alcohol, produces 2 bread, which again is different from the normal factory. The normal factory takes 2 grain for 1 bread. This takes 1 of each for 2 bread. So there's a way of min-maxing this here. Now over here we've got a meat processing plant, which needs either 1 livestock or 2 fish to produce the meat. And I don't know if we can find a coffee plant in here. We could probably go this way. Actually, nope, I'm on the wrong one. Click on there and go to suppliers. So we got a coffee plant at Woolerton. You can see here, this actually needs berries. I don't know where the berries are, but we got another food farm down here. That could be useful. And alcohol. We got alcohol tipped in there. Now, alcohol comes from grain. So it's grain to alcohol to food processing and 2 loaves, and coffee comes from here. So if we click on this one and look at suppliers here, we got wow, these are all over the map as well. And what we got here, so this actually produces coffee berries, which then gets made into coffee over somewhere over here. Where was it? I can't remember where it was now. Oh, we got, yeah, there's the coffee refinery there. So we'd have to bring a train down to here, which would then be this, which would then produce 2 bread. So there's a potential line through there. So that's the new food production line. And go down to, I think materials has now got the construction materials here, which is, and the construction materials are quite interesting. If I actually go to here, this is in Bouverie. and we click on here, you will see that what you actually get is we've got slag, sand, and when you've got the new materials plant, you've got to combine stone and marble, but what you get back is 2 materials in return. So if we look at the suppliers from here, I don't know where the marble is. We've got marble up there. We've got 2, let's just sort here. So we've got 2 marble maps on the map, and they're spread out quite well. So there's only 3 quarries on the map as well. That could be interesting. And then what we've got is the slag from the steel plants here. What you've got here is these steel plants now, which take iron and coal and produce slag and steel. And I think these have replaced the normal steel mills. As far as I know, all the steel mills on the game actually produce slag. Although looking at this, yep, oh, this is just an ordinary steel mill. So there is a difference between the steel mills. So I've just learnt something else. Now if we go to the Woollerton fuel factory, now this fuel factory is different from the traditional fuel factory. So you don't feed oil into it. What you actually feed into it is, if we click on here, get rid of that, and go to here, what you'll see is we've now got oil sands. So if we go there. So you've got oil sands, and what that refinery does, if we come to here, this is interesting, cargo. Well, that's actually consuming. Oh, that's consumers. We need suppliers. We've got oil sands there. If I click on that one, oh, so we're actually in Woollerton refinery. What am I on about? And what you'll see is the byproduct of this refinery here is sand, which then can be fed into, where is it, what we consume as the construction building here, and that sand will then produce 2 materials. So we got that option there. So I think by now you're probably starting to get a bit of a flavor for the way that the new industry mechanics works, and probably the best way to look at it is from the perspective that when you start out in 1850, you're looking for the vanilla industries to begin with, because obviously you don't want to set up complex supply chains because you want your towns to start to grow. So you don't really want to get into multiple steps, and of course you've got a bit of a gift from the perspective of where things are located. When we've got tools there, so we can have a steel industry here, and we've got a new steel mill here. I mean, must admit, I'd be a bit inclined to use the new steel mill. So we got steel mill there, but I can't see any coal. So we got a link there, but we'd have to get coal and iron into this area. That's not going to work that well. And I think that's probably enough of an overview for the moment. So let's just get back to Wooler if I can find it. And I think just to wind the video up, what we're going to do is take a look at where we're probably going to start. My inclination is to start here, and we'll probably run a train line down from here to here to deliver the crude oil, and then we'll ship and turn it into ordinary oil, bring it back to fuel. We can deliver the fuel to Wooler, and that would give me a 2-way line here. But we got nowhere else that really demands fuel. That could be I mean, I suppose initially with a small 1850 train, that would be enough to keep things running. And then we need materials. We got material production over here. Could probably build a road through here, connect that up, and use materials down. So we'll probably start here actually, and get some materials running and delivering to Hornsey and Normanton. And then we'll probably start getting a train line in here, and then we're just gonna have to grow out from that direction and see how things go. I mean, we've got a paper mill here. I mean, if we could find some way, so we've got the ability to produce planks up there, but we'd have to get off of this slope to deliver down to there, and that's going to cost money. So yeah, we're definitely going to be starting around Wooler and then grow out from the map. It's a shame the map doesn't expand. And just a final check up here, whether there's any potential. I mean, what I will do is go through in a bit more detail off camera, so that I know a bit more about what I'm talking about, because I'm aware that this probably isn't the most exciting thing to do. I think developing north of the river is going to be a little bit tricky when we've got a farm there and a farm there. No, that's a food processing plant, so we'd have to bring the grain from here up to here to bring it back to there, or we can bring we got no demand for food here though. Anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it interesting, and until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.